In this video, I am going to share with you a step-by-step pattern of making this cute little fish amigurumi finger puppet. So let's get started. Hey guys, welcome to DIY Crafts. So for this, I am using 4-ply cotton yarn along with a crochet hook of size 3 mm. Now let's begin with the orange thread. Make a slip knot. And then make chain 8. That's chain 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. And this makes the top fin part of the fish. Now skip one chain from the hook and make 2 single crochet stitches. That's the second one. And now into the next stitch, make 1 half double crochet stitch. Now into the next stitch, make a half double crochet increase, which means 2 half double crochet stitches into the same stitch. And in the next stitch, make 1 half double stitch, and in the next stitch, make 1 single crochet stitch. Now you are left with the last chain. Make 1 slip stitch into the last stitch, then make chain 1 and fasten off by leaving a little long tail end. We are going to use this tail end to attach this fin to the body of a fish. Now with the help of a tapestry needle, weave in the tail end and trim the excess thread. And this completes the top fin of the fish. Put this aside and let's start making the next bottom fin of the fish. Again, take the same orange color yarn. Now begin with a slip knot and make chain 6. So that's chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Now skip the first chain from the hook and into the next chain make 1 slip stitch. Then make 3 single crochet stitches. So that's 1 single stitch, 2 and then 3. Now you will have one chain left, and into that chain make another slip stitch and then make chain 1 and fasten off by leaving a little long tail end. Again, we are going to use this same tail end to attach the bottom fin to the fish. Now using a tapestry needle, weave in and trim the excess thread and then put this aside. Now for the body, I am going to begin with the yellow color yarn. Begin with a magic ring and then make chain 1. Ignore this chain 1 as a stitch. Now into the center, make 6 single crochet stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Now after completing all the 6 single stitches, close the magic ring. This completes your first row. Now insert the needle onto the top of the first single stitch. Make 1 single stitch into that stitch and put the stitch marker into this one, and this marks the beginning of the second row. And for the second row, you have to make 1 single stitch in each and every stitch. So make 1 single stitch over the top of all the 6 stitches in the first row. So that's the third one, and then the 4, 5th one, and finally the 6th one. So once you complete all the 6 stitches, your second row is completed. You will reach your stitch marker place. Remove the stitch marker and let's start making the third row. Make 2 single crochet stitches into the same stitch, which means we are going to make a single crochet increase. Now put a stitch marker into the first stitch which we have done into the stitch. So this marks the beginning of the third row. And then continue to make 2 single crochet stitches in each and every stitch throughout the row until you reach the starting point, which means the stitch marker point. Here I am making the last increase for the third row, and this completes the third row with 12 single crochet stitches. Remove the stitch marker and make 1 single crochet stitch into the next stitch and put the stitch marker back in place to mark the beginning of the fourth row. Now the pattern for the 4th row is 1 single crochet stitch followed by 1 increase, which means 2 single crochet stitches into the same stitch. And now we are going to repeat this pattern throughout the row for 6 times. So this is the second set. 1 stitch and 1 increase, again 1 single stitch followed by 1 increase, that's 2 single stitches into the same stitch. Now repeat this 3 more times until you reach the starting point. Here I am making the last increase for the 4th row, and now this completes this row with 18 single crochet stitches. Remove the stitch marker, make 1 single stitch into the next stitch and put the stitch marker back in place to mark the beginning of the 5th row. Now make 1 single stitch in each and every stitch throughout the row, which means we are not making any increases or any decreases. So the count will remain the same. 18 single crochet stitches in your 4th row, which means you will have 18 single crochet stitches in your 5th row as well. This is the last stitch of the 5th row, and now once you are done, remove the stitch marker and make 1 single crochet stitch into the next stitch. And now put the stitch marker back into the place to mark the beginning of 6th row. Now make another single crochet stitch into the next stitch, which means we have made 2 single crochet stitches, and then into the next stitch make an increase, which means we are going to repeat this pattern of 2 single crochet stitches and increases throughout the row. That's 1 single stitch, second single stitch, and then an increase. Now repeat this throughout the row, and here I am making the last single crochet increase of this 6th row, and by the end of the 6th row you will have 24 single crochet stitches. Remove the stitch marker, make 1 single stitch and put the stitch marker back in place, and this marks the beginning of 7th row. Make 1 single crochet stitch in each and every stitch for the 7th row, and now we are going to repeat this pattern for 7th row until the 10th row. So up to 10 rows you will have 24 stitches in each and every row. Now this is the last stitch of the 10th row, and in the 10th row as well we will have 24 single crochet stitches. Now remove the stitch marker, make 1 single crochet stitch and put the stitch marker to mark the beginning of the 11th row. Make 1 single crochet stitch into the next stitch, so which means we have already done 2 single stitches, and into the next stitch make 1 invisible decrease. So invisible decrease is where you put the needle through the front loops of next 2 stitches, drop a loop and then make a single stitch. And now we are going to repeat this pattern of 2 single stitches and 1 invisible decrease throughout the row until you reach the starting point. Here I am making the last invisible decrease of the 11th row. By the end of this row you will have 18 single crochet stitches, and look at the shape of the fish. Now remove the stitch marker, make 1 single crochet stitch and then put the stitch marker back in place to mark the beginning of the 12th row. Now once 1 single crochet stitch is done, make 1 invisible decrease, and then we are going to repeat this pattern of 1 single crochet stitch and 1 invisible decrease throughout the row. 1 single stitch and 1 invisible decrease. So by the end of this row you will have 12 crochet stitches. Now I am making the last invisible decrease of row 12. By the end of this row you will have 12 single crochet stitches. Now remove the stitch marker, make 1 single stitch and put the stitch marker back in place to mark the beginning of 13th row, and then make 1 single crochet stitch in each and every stitch throughout the row. So again by the end of the 13th row you will have 12 single crochet stitches. Just put a count while you are crocheting so that you will never miss a stitch and the count will be perfect. Now we are going to repeat the same pattern for 14th row as well. So remove the stitch marker, make 1 single stitch and make 1 single stitch in each and every stitch. So for the 14th row also you will have 12 single crochet stitches. So once you are done with the 14th row, remove the stitch marker, make a slip stitch into the next stitch. Then make chain 1 and trim the excess thread by leaving a little small tail end. We are going to leave it inside, so don't worry about this one. This completes the body of the fish, and now grab the orange color yarn to make the tail of the fish. We are going to attach this yarn to any of the stitches in the 14th row. So just insert the needle, grab the yarn, and then make chain 1. And now for 15th row, use only the front loops, which means we are going to leave the back loops. Insert the needle only into the front loop, and now include the tail ends while you work, so you don't have to weave in those at the end of the row. Make 1 single crochet stitch in each and every stitch throughout the row, which means in the 15th row as well, you will have 12 single crochet stitches. Make 1 single crochet stitch in each and every stitch by inserting the needle only into the front loop. Now I am making the last single crochet stitch of the 15th row, and then make a slip stitch onto the top of the first single stitch. Then for the 16th row, make chain 3 and into the same stitch make 1 double crochet stitch, which means the chain 3 and double crochet stitch makes the first DC increase in the 16th row. Now continue to make DC increases in each and every stitch throughout the row, which means we have to make 2 double crochet stitches in each and every stitch. So by the end of the 16th row, you will have a total of 24 double crochet stitches. So here I am making the last increase for the 16th row. So that's first DC and then second DC into the same stitch. Now make a slip stitch onto the top of the third chain of first chain 3. So here you will have 24 double crochet stitches. And for the 17th row, make chain 3 and then slip stitch into the next stitch. And this one we are going to repeat this for 24 times, which means chain 3 and slip stitch into the next one. Again chain 3 and slip stitch into this next stitch. So likewise, continue this pattern throughout the row, and this completes your 17th row with 24 petals. So once the last slip stitch was made, make chain 1 and then trim the excess thread. Here you can trim the thread just by leaving 3 to 4 inches, which we are going to weave in. And this completes the tail part of the fish. Now with the help of a tapestry needle, weave in the tail end and trim the excess thread. Now let's assemble the fins to the body. Using the long tail ends and the tapestry needle, attach the top fin across the row 5 and row 12 as shown in the video. Just weave in and weave out across the chain and the topmost stitches across the body of a fish, and then secure it with a knot and hide the tail ends into the body of the fish. If you wish, you can run additional stitches on the other side as well. Secure it with a knot and hide the tail ends into the stuffing. You don't have to really trim the excess thread because these amigurumi figures can hide the tail ends in their body itself. Now attach the bottom fin as well. Again use a tapestry needle and attach the bottom fin across the row 6 and row 9. Align them properly so that one fin will be exactly on the opposite side of the other fin. Again secure it with another knot and hide the tail end into this body of the fish. And once the assembling is done, let's stuff the fish with the Fiberfill. Use a good amount of Fiberfill so that the fish will look decent and it won't be bulgy. But add a little less Fiberfill because we have to make it as a finger puppet. We need to have some gap to put the cloth into it. Now to make it as a finger puppet, I am using this cloth piece which is stitched as a pocket to fit the finger. Now insert this cloth piece into the project and fold the edges as shown in the video. Use an embroidery thread and a thin needle to attach this cloth piece to the project. Attach this one across the back loops of row 15 and the cloth piece together as shown in the video. Attach it all across the row. Secure it with a knot and then hide the tail end into the project and then trim the excess thread. Once the assembling is done, you can highlight the project by adding some eyes, mouth or whatever blush you wanted to make it. And that's it. Your storytelling sessions and playtimes can be upgraded with this cute little fish finger puppet amigurumi. I hope you all enjoyed watching this tutorial. Do give this pattern a try and let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. See you all in the next video. Thank you for watching. Please like the video, share it and subscribe to DIY Crafts.